It's baffled scholars for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle made of multi-dimensional elements, an enigma with roots that reach back to the dawning of time, perhaps before. Daniel explained part of it. Ezekiel and Isaiah had glimpses into it. John saw it all for the time of the end. That time is now. Join Derek and Sharon Gilbert on a journey that spans the course of history, from Eden to Mount Hermon, from Hermon to Babel, from Babel to Rome, from Rome to the cross, and from there to us. Biblical prophecy is coming true before your eyes, and to understand it, you must discern the times both then and now. It's time to unravel the threads of this all-encompassing prophetic paradox. It's time to unravel Revelation.
Welcome to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert. As you can see, this is not our normal setup. Sharon is back in the house, and that's because as we're recording this, we are preparing for our Solidarity mission to Israel. Now, by the time you're watching this, we will either be on our way back or already returned from our one-week trip to Israel. But obviously, the combination of the preparations plus getting our manuscript turned in for our forthcoming book, The Gates of Hell, which was due, let's just say we're a little bit past due on that, but that is now off to the typesetter, so that is done. And just combining that with the preparations for our Israel trip just left precious little time for making television. So we are, for the next few weeks, going to present what in Hollywood parlance would be referred to as clip shows. These are actually derived from the video that we produced a couple of years ago from our first Israel tour back in 2018. We're calling it our Wars of the Gods series. That first year we called it the Search for the Titans. The Titans being the old gods of the Greeks who were condemned. If you remember Greek mythology from high school, they were condemned, banished to Tartarus by Zeus and the Olympians after a long war between those two groups of supernatural beings. Interestingly enough, we know from the Bible that there is a group of supernatural beings that are in Tartarus, which is where the Titans of the Greeks and the Romans are confined. We find this in 2 Peter 2, verse 4, where he writes that God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but thrust them down to, our English Bibles say hell, but the word in Greek is actually Tartarosis, which literally means thrust down to Tartarus, not Hades, not Gehenna, not Sheol, but Tartarus. In the Greek mind, in Greek religion, and this was the worldview and the religion that had dominated the land of Israel, Judea and Samaria, the Galilee, for hundreds of years by the time of Peter. This was a separate place in the netherworld reserved for supernatural threats to the divine order. In other words, the Titans refers to the same group that are mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, the sons of God who saw that the daughters of men were fair and took wives of any they chose. There is an area near Israel. It's part of Israel now, has been since 1973 when Israel captured the Golan Heights from Syria, that was known in the ancient world to be the literal entrance to the netherworld, or at least that's what it was believed. We could look at that and say, well, that can't be true. That's certainly not true. But Jesus focused a good bit of his ministry there. And we've written about that in the forthcoming book, The Gates of Hell. And we will talk about that in a DVD and streaming video documentary that will be released later this year called The Valley of the Shadow of Death. Jesus called attention to it and focused his ministry in this region. And so in the first of our 3-part excerpt from our documentary, or travelogumentary, if you will, Wars of the Gods, Volume 1, Search for the Titans, we take you to the Golan Heights and the area where Jesus declared his divinity at the base of Mount Hermon, literally, the gates of hell.
While editing this video, we stumbled onto something that surprised us, not only because we hadn't expected to find it, but because apparently only one other person we know of has found this so far. And it's been there on the land for at least 6,000 years, something like that?
In fact, when you found it, you hollered for me, Sharon, get in here. You have to see this. Because when you see this, dear friends, dear viewers, your mouths are going to drop open and you're going to wonder, why has no one else seen this? Well, we only now and today have satellite imagery, and to really perceive it, you need to be very high up. Planes don't fly over that area because it's a stone's throw from Syria.
I stumbled onto this site while looking for a Google Earth image of Gilgal Refaim. So I brought up the picture, looked at it, did a screen capture, which you'll see on the screen here. But look just to the north of Gilgal Refaim, well, serpentine feature on the landscape.
It is startling, and we have read a few papers that indicate this is a natural lava formation. Let's assume they're right. It's still called Bashan, which it essentially means place of the serpent.
That's correct. This is in the middle of the ancient kingdom of Og, and for some reason, and now I'll superimpose a map that was developed by an archaeologist of megalithic burials in the area, and you'll see that the vast majority of them are clustered right on top of that mound, as well as several Chalcolithic dwellings. This is why the scholars have redated the construction of Gilgal Refaim from the Bronze Age, which is roughly 3100 BC to about the time of the Exodus, the beginning of the Iron Age, around 1200 BC or thereabouts, back to the Chalcolithic period, because there weren't enough Bronze Age villages or settlements in the area to account for the number of man-hours it took to move the 40,000 tons of rock to create Gilgal Refaim.
Exactly. We're talking about men who would no longer be guarding their homes, who would have to be fed and watered.
There was a complex civilization with a ruling authority who could make people go out and build this thing. What's even more interesting is that they found a wall to the south and west that appears to be even larger than Gilgal Refaim, and apparently was dismantled. The stones taken from the older, bigger wall to create Gilgal Refaim. Now bear in mind, the Great Serpent Mound here in the United States is about 1,100 feet long. When you run Google's measuring tool on Google Maps across this thing from tip to tip, it is about 3,700 feet. So it's more than 3 times longer, almost 3/4 of a mile. And it's about 20 to 25 feet above the surrounding plain. The Serpent Mound in Ohio is only 2 to 4 feet above the plain, above the surrounding terrain. So, and that has been dated by scholars to about the 4th century BC, about the time that Alexander the Great was conquering the lands around ancient Israel. Now, this Chalcolithic mound, based on the dating of the settlements and the tombs on top of it, is at least 3,000 years older. To put this in the context of some sort of timing, we would place this after the Tower of Babel, so well after the flood of Noah, and after the Tower of Babel, but long before the arrival in Canaan of Abraham, which was somewhere after 1900 BC. I put that about 1876 BC in my timeline. And by the way, we have to give credit where it's due. The one person we know of who has noticed this and written about it is Doug Van Dorn, and he's the author of a book called Giants, Sons of the Gods. He noticed it on Google Earth back in 2013, but really didn't make a big fuss about it. Apparently, this has really not been noticed before, but it seems that this is at least one possible explanation for the naming of this land in the shadow of Mount Hermon, which is plainly visible from the central core of Gilgal Refaim, Bashan, the place of the serpent.
Exactly. And the reason we are spending so much time in this film on this topic in this place, because we went lots more places after this, is because it is central to the theme of this film, the search for the Rephaim. Derek makes the case that the Titans, we searched for the Titans in our first film from 2018, that they are the Watchers. So would you say then, honey, that the Rephaim are the Olympians?
No, I would say that the Rephaim would be the giants. Remember that...
The Nephilim.
The Nephilim, yes. Different names for the same entities, but Rephaim applies to the Nephilim after the flood.
Okay, the reason I asked that is because the Olympians were the children of the Titans.
Correct, but they were fully divine, whereas the Nephilim were semi-divine.
That's true. Well, that's an interesting thing. How could they be fully divine? I mean, what lying is taking place in the nether realm? Let's pretend to be this, you pretend to be that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That was the distinction. The Olympians were fully God, whereas the Nephilim were the children of mortals and the gods. Although there are stories in the Greek, among the Greeks, of the giants being created from the blood that flowed from Uranus when he was castrated by Kronos of the Titans.
Which takes us to something, and we're going to warn you, this is speculation, but if you look at a map, and I think you've got one that you can put up in this visual presentation, of the megalithic sites in the Levant area.
And specifically dolmens, which are those funerary monuments.
Yes, you will find that they follow the rift.
Yes.
From south to north.
The Jordan Rift Valley, between northern Syria and the Dead Sea. Those dolmens are clustered along in the Rift Valley for some unknown reason. Now, it's possible that that's just because that's where the rocks were closest to the surface because of the geologic activity. Or it's because of a memory of something that took place somewhere along that rift that caused that scar in the earth.
Exactly. Could it be that it has something to do with rock that was expelled when the rift was formed? What if that rift was formed when something was thrown into the earth?
What if that was the location where the Titans were, the Watchers were thrust down to Tartarus?
We have the one word.
Yes, 2 Peter 2:4. The word is Tartarau in Greek, which means literally thrust down to Tartarus. So what if the myths, legends that developed around the Titans who lost their war with the Olympians and were confined to Tartarus by Zeus and the Olympians, again, a twisted version of the biblical story. What if this was the location? And remember, Bashan, place of the serpent, known to the Canaanites of the ancient world as the literal entrance to the underworld, ruled over by a god called Rapayu, which is a singular form of Refaim, who reigned at Ashtaroth and Edrei, which were the cities at the center of the kingdom of Og of Bashan.
Absolutely. And we get back to the Joshua altar because Joshua he was told by the Lord, this is your first battle. Go against Og of Bashan.
Yes, right. And we will talk more about this a little later in this film when we visit the actual altar of Joshua.
Exactly. And we want to also make sure you understand when we connect Joshua's altar to Gilgal Refaim, think of Gilgal Refaim as the fallen realm placing their imprint upon the earth.
Mm-hmm. We can't stress enough that this is within line of sight of Mount Hermon.
Exactly.
This is the ancient kingdom of Bashan, which the ancient world believed to be an evil place. In the Ugaritic tongue, around the time of the judges, Bethan would have been the way they pronounced it, which literally meant place of the serpent. And we are one of the very few tours of Israel that has gone to see it, and we'll go again.
We will indeed. Well, it is no coincidence that we left Gilgal Refaim and went to the Banias area of Mount Hermon.
At the base of Mount Hermon is a cave that has had ritual connections for many, many years. Our good friend Dr. Judd Burton did his doctoral dissertation on the religious history of Banias, called Banias now because of the Arabic pronunciation of the P vowel, formerly Panias because of the Greek god Pan. And that's not a coincidence that you've got a goat demon connected to this location. Now, when you go there, there's the cute little picture cartoon goat, satyr. Welcome to Panias.
No, satyrs aren't cute. They're not cute and cuddly.
The Israelites were condemned for sacrificing to goat demons during their time in the desert, the Seirim. And this was a cult location where sacrifices were thrown into the cave. Now, in former days, it was the source of the River Jordan. And at some point in its history, the seismological activity, earthquake, shifted the Jordan. It comes out further down, and you'll see the river there as we approach the cave. But the cave itself was still really imposing. This was the site of Caesarea Philippi.
And you can see the ruins of Caesarea Philippi there. You see some of the columns. We took so many photographs. And once again, thank you, Taylor Joseph, who was the cameraman for much of the time.
We've got more to come straight ahead. We will take you to Banias or Panias in the ancient world. This Caesarea Philippi in the 1st century was where it was believed the gates of hell literally stood. A giant cave called the Grotto of Pan. That's ahead on Unraveling Revelation. Our new book, The Gates of Hell, is available now, and we have a special offer on it at the Gilbert House store.
You know, you're not going to find a deal like this anywhere else. You're going to get the book, which is a $21.95 value. You're going to get 3 DVDs.
More than 12 hours of video content, plus the book for just $45. That's half price.
That's half price because the whole package at retail is over $90.
The Gates of Hell tackles mysteries like where was Jesus baptized and why did he choose to get baptized in a place known as the Land of the Serpent?
Oh my goodness, you want this deal. This is the kind of thing that you can share with your friends, share with your pastor, read again, because trust me, the source information that Derek and I used for this, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
Right. It's not just an archaeological or historical curiosity. It is relevant to us today. Again, a special offer for the month of October only at gilberthouse.org/store. Welcome back to Unraveling Revelation. I'm Derek Gilbert. Please just take a moment, if you would, visit our website, gilberthouse.org/store. Again, we've got the special going on this month on our books, but also coffee there. We run on coffee here at Gilbert House, and we've partnered with our friends at Kevlar Joe's, Nick Fisher and his team there, who roast coffee in small batches and have come up with several delicious blends that we can personally vouch for because we have tried them all. You'll find the link at our store, gilberthouse.org/store. It takes you to the Kevlar Joe's website where you can take advantage of his wonderful small batch coffee and help support what we're doing here and also help support Nick and the team at Kevlar Joe's as well. Well, now, the Gates of Hell. Want to know what it looks like? Watch this.
Boy, you know what? When we went to Panias, you preached.
He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." Why did Jesus pick this place? Because for thousands of years prior to this, this was a site of pagan cult worship, dedicated to the god Pan, but also, our friend Dr. Burton says, probably some fertility god of the Canaanites prior to that. It was believed that when they threw their sacrifice into the pool, if it sank, the god accepted it. If it didn't, the god had rejected it. There are some accounts, some archaeological evidences suggest that even human sacrifice took place here. And remember, we are in the region of Bashan, which everyone in the ancient world knew was the entrance to the netherworld, which is why Jesus' next line makes so much sense. It's so powerful. I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Amen. And the gates of hell, which by the way are right over here, will not prevail against it. Amen. Amen. That's Amen. Why Jesus brought the disciples here. That's why he had that revelation. Peter suddenly realizes, you're the Messiah. Right here at the base of the mountain, that was the Mount of Assembly for the Creator God of the people who had surrounded the Israelites for thousands of years, by about 1,500 years by that point. And then after 6 days, Jesus took Peter and James and John up this mountain and was transfigured into a being of light. That was sending a flare into the spirit realm. Here I am! Come get some! And from there he went to Jerusalem to fulfill his mission. And as Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians 2, if the rulers of this age, if the rulers, the archons, he wasn't talking about politicians, the principalities and powers had understood what was going on, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. He poked them in the eye, made them mad, and they did just what he wanted them to do, and because of that, we are saved. Amen. Amen. Amen.
You stood possibly in the very area where Christ stood, essentially taking back Mount Hermon. Mm-hmm.
Pastor Carl Gallups and Messianic Rabbi Zev Parat also got the opportunity to preach and teach in that location as why Caesarea Philippi was significant, why Mount Hermon is significant. And you'll see some of these teachings in the DVD extras. If we stopped for the teachings during the DVD, we found you'd have a 17-hour DVD by the time we're all done.
But we didn't want to keep those from you.
Sure.
We're not going to, hoard those or save them for something else. So that's why we had the second disc and all of the extras on it.
Tel Dan was another spot that we went to. Now, this was a site that is significant for a couple of reasons. It was the site of one of the golden calves by the king Jeroboam. He led the rebellion that split the northern kingdom away from the son of Solomon, Rehoboam. And as we have studied the old gods worshipped by the Canaanites around ancient Israel, we find that that golden calf was more significant than we thought. The prophet Hosea was a prophet to the northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel. And he didn't have very many nice things to say about Jeroboam or the northern kingdom. I have spurned your calf, O Samaria. My anger burns against them. How long will they be incapable of innocence? For it is from Israel. A craftsman made it, it is not God. The calf of Samaria shall be broken to pieces. Now again, I'm not a scholar of the original Hebrew, but I read a lot of stuff by guys who are. And it's been pointed out by a very smart guy, Nicholas Wyatt is his name. He was a professor at the University of Edinburgh, who said the verse 6, for it is from Israel, is really clunky in the original Hebrew. Literally, it means for from Israel. And in the English translation, tried to make more sense of it. For it is from Israel. For from Israel. But Dr. Wyatt pointed out that if you regroup the consonants, which you can do in Hebrew because it's a consonant, no vowels. Wheel of Fortune did not exist in the 10th century BC. You get this instead. Instead of for it is from Israel, you get for it is Bol El. Bol El was one of the epithets of the creator god of the Canaanites. And if you read my book, Last Clash of the Titans, you saw the whole chapter there on, well, bovid imagery, but really divine, not bovine. What Jeroboam did was set up idols at Bethel and at Dan to the creator god of the Canaanites as a signal, hey, we're changing sides. So a significant place. And then from there, we got a wonderful overlook of the border zone between Israel and Syria with a wonderful view of Mount Hermon from Mount Bental.
It's breathtaking. Now, last year, we didn't get to go to Mount Bental because there were sorties taking place over that area. Yeah,
that was the day that the F-15s had gone overhead at about 3 in the morning. We were warned that we couldn't go up there because they detected Iranian military movement on the Syrian side of the border.
Exactly. You can see Syria from Mount Bental.
Right. You see the farmland below, and it looks as peaceful as it looks like the American Midwest, except for the hills and the mountains. We don't have those in the Midwest.
It looks like parts of Nebraska. You get to western Nebraska, and you can see the foothills of the Rockies. It looks very much like this.
Right.
Well, Mount Hermon was great. Mount Bental was amazing because you saw the installation where during the 1967 war, they kept watch on Syria.
And some of the battlefields where some of the, almost miraculous, some would say definitely miraculous victories by the IDF took place. So an amazing sight. Very, very glad that we were able to get up there this year and just seeing Mount Hermon with our own eyes and realizing the significance that place has played in the spirit realm for thousands of years was an unbelievable, just once in a lifetime sort of thing. Except we hope we get to do it again.
We started off our next day, of course, with another great breakfast. We packed up our bags because I think we were heading to the David Dead Sea Resort that evening. So the day of Thursday, May 16th, our first stop was the Sea of Galilee.
This was really neat. This was a high spot last year, and it was again this year. We toured the Sea of Galilee on the Jesus boat, which is a boat owned and operated by Captain Danny Carmel, who is a Messianic Jew and an amazing singer.
Oh, he is. He sells his CDs, and we're talking about an amazing singer.
Yes.
So we had the opportunity to get out on the Sea of Galilee and realize that you're out on those waters where 2,000 years ago, Jesus walked across from the shore to the boat, and where the Apostle Peter had enough faith temporarily to step out on the water.
He did more than I would have done. I'd have been cowering in that boat.
It's easier for us with 2,000 years of hindsight to look back and say, he should have had more faith. Well, yeah, easy for you to say in the comfort of your boat with your lifesaver around your neck. It's a wonderful gathering. There's some real worship that takes place on that boat, and that's why that's a part of the annual tour when we go out on the Sea of Galilee. From there, the Jesus Boat Museum. One of the really fascinating archaeological finds in recent years was a boat that was dug out of the mud on the shore of the Sea of Galilee as the waters receded. They found a way to remove the wood which had been preserved in the mud. And from there, you walk to the city, or just short drive rather, to the city of Capernaum. This was where Jesus called his first disciples, Peter and Andrew, James and John, the sons of thunder, the four men who were partners in a fishing operation out on the Sea of Galilee. They gave it up to follow Jesus, to become fishers of men. And there's an archaeological team there that believes that they found the home of Simon Peter.
Isn't that amazing? And you get to see it.
Yeah.
It's all underneath a big canopy to preserve it, but you get to, in fact, I think much of it's inside an actual physical building.
Well, it's actually underneath a church.
And the wonderful thing is you get this permanent installation. It's a church that allows you to look through a glass floor and actually see what that excavated building is like.
So Capernaum is educational from an archaeological sense, but also inspirational because you're walking the streets that the first disciples of Jesus walked, which is incredible. And if the archaeological team is right, and that was the home of Simon Peter, where Jesus raised his mother, who was
yes, and then she got up and started cooking for everybody.
Yeah, just an amazing, amazing experience.
These are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and Derek and I are blessed to get to go back year after year, but we understand this may be your only time to go because it's not cheap.
True.
We highly encourage you, if you've decided you want to do something to celebrate a major milestone as an anniversary or whatever, we want to see you with us in Israel.
And we will be returning to Israel next spring, March 25th through April 3rd of 2025. We're calling this our Iron and Myth Tour because the regular guest on my weekly podcast, A View from the Bunker, we do a monthly series roundtable called Iron and Myth. Pastor Doug Van Dorn, Dr. Judd Burton joining us from that team, and Timothy Alberino, who would have joined us this year had not other, events intervened. More information is available at our website. You can find all of our latest travel plans and upcoming conferences and so forth at gilberthouse.org, but specifically for travel and specifically next spring's Israel tour, gilberthouse.org/travel. There's a link there that takes you to the Lipkin Tours website, our partners in our adventures in Israel. We guarantee you this will be a tour of Israel that is like no other. We continue with more next week, and we thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch. This is Unraveling Revelation.
Unraveling Revelation is a viewer-supported outreach of Gilbert House Ministries. Follow us online at unravelingrevelation.tv and gilberthouse.org. That's where you'll find our weekly Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship. Join us as we study the Bible every week, verse by verse, in chronological order. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us through our websites or drop us a line at P.O. Box 78, Crane, Missouri 65633.